Hello and welcome back to my humble show. I have so much to go through. I'm not sure exactly how I'm going to do all of this, but before I get into all of that, let me just add that I'm your host for today and every other day, the Articulate Thinker, hopefully. Here to bring you art articles and articulation straight from Articulation Station, where I'll be assessing the situation. So be sure to like, subscribe, and enjoy the ride. Don't forget to turn on those bell notifications while you're at it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Feel free to disagree with me, as always. Like I said, it's quite a topic, or a plethora of topics to tackle. I wasn't sure exactly if or when or how I was going to even cover this, but I feel like I must. So yeah, some of the names I'm going to be discussing today. Megyn Kelly, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk. Let's start on a side note, a bit of news. Now, I'm not exactly claiming to be breaking news, but I do my best to break down the news. So yes, if by the time I upload this video there is new news on this news, then I apologize for this news fest. So here's a Truth Social post from Donald Trump himself. Based on the statement just issued by Hamas, he says, I believe they are ready for a lasting peace. Israel must immediately stop the bombing of Gaza so that we can get the hostages out safely and quickly. Right now, it's far too dangerous to do that. We are already in discussions on details to be worked out. This is not about Gaza alone. This is about long-sought peace in the Middle East. Something there for everyone. Worth noting that he starts out saying that he believes Hamas is ready for a lasting peace, which would be quite a change-up, right? But he ends saying that we are in discussions on details. So, don't want to speak too soon on any of this. He has been suggesting that some deal has either been made or is going to be made in the very near future each time he says something about it. I just kind of bite my tongue because I'll believe it when I see it. Peace in the Middle East, yeah, that's a lot to ask for. But if Donald Trump, etc., can pull this off, once again, that's going to be good for everyone involved. I don't know how much time I want to spend on this. I'll probably spend more time on it than I would like, because that's generally what happens. I did talk about Ian Carroll, if you know who that is, at least a few days ago, and I indirectly addressed Candace Owens while I was at it, but there's a lot of drama going on right now in the conservative movement, if you will. Some would call it the right wing, some would call it the woke right. That's a term that has been going around as of late. And I'm not trying to hate on anyone particular, other than Candace Owens maybe, but I do have quite a few thoughts to share. And if you are someone who is a fan of Candace Owens, and you very well may be, because there are a lot of fans and stans still, despite the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories which she has gone down as of late especially. You know, I could be here all day and all night talking about this if I tried to cover everything all at once. So I'm just going to pull up what I've prepared and see how far I get with that. Maybe I'll save some for later. Even if I don't, there will be more to talk about later, because the drama is an ongoing saga, an ongoing series of all things related to the Middle East and Charlie Kirk's assassination. Yeah, a lot of theories running wild at this point, spread in large part by her and her counterparts. But don't take it from me when I say that she is not exactly the most reliable source. I have just one example I want to share with you up front here. Maybe you've seen this. Shout out to Nathan Livingstone, known as Milk Bar TV on X. He has been putting together these compilation of clips of Candace Owens, which rather thoroughly debunk some of the claims she has been making, or as she might say, suggestions she has been making. It seems like with Tucker Carlson, he's the just asking questions guy. Well, with Candace Owens, because she's not necessarily interviewing people all the time, she's more just running her mouth. She's the suggestions girl. He's the questions guy, she's the suggestions girl. They kind of bounce ideas off of each other now. At least when it comes to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, Tucker Carlson doesn't seem to have gone down quite an extensive rabbit hole as her. Of course, he was speaking even at Charlie Kirk's memorial. Candace Owens, on the other hand, was not. She was not exactly welcome there, and I'm not sure she's going to be welcome anywhere around the friends and family of Charlie Kirk anytime soon. Of course, she has gone after all of TPUSA at this point, so I'm not so sure what the point of all of this is on her part. I do have my sneaking suspicions, and I guess I don't need to explain all of that up front, because as time goes by, what I share with you will show you what's on my mind. And more broadly, this is about the aforementioned conflict in the Middle East. Whether it ends or not, I don't know. But people have picked their sides on this. And I am someone who is on the outside looking in. Here in the States, far from the Middle East and all of their wartime trauma, I can only make so much of a difference. I just try my best to be as informative as possible when I do speak. I'm open-minded. I'm rather objective. At least I do my best not to be any more biased than I must be. I just try to take everything I hear and see with a grain of salt, take notes, live and learn, without reaching conclusions by jumping to them or simply ranting like some people seem to be doing as a grift and or any other reason you might want to attribute it to. I haven't talked about the Middle East. I haven't talked about Israel. I haven't talked about Gaza all that much because I'm no expert and I feel like I only have so much to offer. But so many things are interconnected and you can't really cover one thing without covering other things. So just like everyone is connecting the dots these days, even in the most conspiratorial ways, I'm going to connect some dots here and share some humble opinions. And maybe you'll agree with what I say, maybe you won't. But either way, it's okay. So what can I say? Back to this. Candace Owens knowingly lied to her audience, claiming Tyler Robinson, as in Charlie Kirk's assassin, never said vehicle in an old video when he absolutely did. She just cut it out. So like I said, this is just one example of her being unreliable. Whether that's because she's mistaken or lying. And considering how she's supposed to be such a deep-digging, reliable source, I have a hard time giving her the benefit of the doubt at this point. In fact, I have for a while, though I was mostly ignoring her for a while until she started making a mockery of the murder of her so-called friend, Charlie Kirk. But yes, for a bit more context here, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, there was a text chain published between Tyler Robinson and his roommate/romantic partner. In that series of texts, Tyler Robinson had used the word vehicle. So Candace Owens has been looking so thoroughly for that needle in the haystack to prove that the haystack is actually a needle stack, that she was focusing on certain words such as vehicle and claiming that no young man would use the word vehicle instead of car when casually, though it wasn't exactly a casual circumstance, conversing with a roommate/lover. So to further emphasize her speculative perspective, she pulled up body cam footage from a couple of years ago, I believe, when Robinson had been pulled over after a wreck. And in it, she claims that he never used the word vehicle, meaning in the body cam footage, according to her, he never used the word vehicle, which is supposed to make it all the more unusual for him to use the word vehicle in his text chain with his roommate/lover. The problem for her is that he actually did use the word vehicle in the body cam footage in the aftermath of the wreck. She just cut that out. She cut that part out and didn't show her audience that. And also, she has a history herself of using the word vehicle on her podcast. But don't take it from me. Take it from her in this compilation of clips, courtesy of Nathan Livingstone /MilkBar TV.
There's old footage of Tyler Robinson that is now circulating from a car accident that he had. And during the discussion with the officer that showed up, Tyler certainly refers to it as his car, not his vehicle, because that's how most English speakers refer to a car.
I guess she herself is not an English-speaking American, but I digress. I mean, this is the epitome of reaching. This is peak reaching.
Unless they're in the military or on the police force. So here is 2022 police body cam footage, in case you missed that, of Tyler making a crash report. Take a listen.
Your mom's on her way?
Yeah, she's gonna be a minute. She's got to shuttle over from where she's at to her car and then drive over.
Gotcha.
She's got to shuttle over in her car. Of course, one might observe that it's a bit odd to use the word shuttle over. But who knows, maybe he has a strange vocabulary, like I sometimes do, and I kind of pride myself in it.
His mother was going to shuttle over from her car?
Oh, he used the word car instead of vehicle. That proves the text chain is just an op, or something like that. A fed op, or something like that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was looking up at the light just before getting there.
Okay.
I saw it shift yellow, and as I get into the intersection, there was a vehicle in the lane.
Is that something that you...
Okay, in case you couldn't read that text on the screen there, it says, Candace didn't air this part, where he's using the word vehicle. Hear it again.
There was a vehicle in the lane.
Is that something that you say? I'm just going to go outside to my vehicle. I left something in my vehicle. Apparently, they just shoot the breeze with one another, and they say vehicle and retrieve. And if you don't believe me, then good. You shouldn't believe that. You shouldn't believe me when I say that. And Nick was particularly asking him to determine who owned a white vehicle. And everyone locally had looked at this vehicle and said, I can help you to just figure out more about this vehicle. And suddenly a president gets shot in a moving vehicle. November 22nd, 1963, JFK was shot. President JFK was shot sitting alongside his wife in a vehicle.
Oh, but normal English-speaking Americans don't use the word vehicle, do they? Who makes these kind of arguments? I cannot take her seriously at all. This has gotten out of hand. She is, in fact, making a mockery out of the murder of her so-called friend. And I can't stand it. And just so you can see for yourself, here are the screenshots of that text chain between the aforementioned assassin and his partner in crime. Is a little bit of a reach, and I'm not going to do that. So, as far as I know, the roommate/lover has been complying, so not considered an accomplice at this time. But yes, this is what Candace Owens was referring to when Robinson said, "I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle." Of course, in the previous text up here, he said squad car. Now, if he would have said squad vehicle, then she might be onto something. Not. I just wanted to highlight all of that, though, because of how incredibly unreliable she is. Yet she seems to have quite the cult following even at this point, and she is stacking up the views at an unprecedented rate. I mean, she's getting more attention than ever, and it very well could benefit her financially, which may be just what she needs considering some of the lawsuits she has found herself involved in. Anyways, I'm going to be focusing more on Megyn Kelly now, because she is someone who has tried to wash her hands of all of the weirdness. She hasn't wanted to criticize her friends, although she doesn't really consider herself to know Candace Owens enough to criticize her, which is actually a little bit strange because you can go on to X and you can find back and forths which her, as in Megyn Kelly and Candace Owens, had, where they were arguing publicly with each other. But now that Candace Owens has really gone off the deep end, Megyn Kelly just can't bring herself to criticize her at all. She's not criticizing Tucker Carlson either, and I'm not someone who's just demanding that certain people be criticized by other certain people. I'm just calling it like I see it, and I can see that Megyn Kelly has found herself in a bit of a struggle session. So she was on the Fifth Column podcast the other day and got a bit worked up, talking about why she wasn't going to go after the likes of Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. And also she was saying that Israel needs to end the war in Gaza, just at the snap of a finger, I guess. Well, now with some of the latest news, it might actually happen in one way or another. But she was just saying what she has actually been implying for a while, that it's time for Israel to wrap this thing up. So obviously all of the pro-Israel people have been jumping on her even more, condemning her not just for calling upon Israel to wrap this thing up, but also condemning her for not condemning Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, so on and so forth. So now I want to share some interactions I had on X, starting with an interaction I had with someone who is very, very pro-Israel. He had watched a clip of Megyn Kelly on that podcast, and he had responded very negatively to her. So I'm going to show you the clip, and I'm going to read for you what Yehuda Teitelbaum said. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Actually, I don't know if that's even his real name. I believe that was also the name of a rabbi from back in the 1980s. But either way, I'll call him Yehuda. I'll read what he has to say, and then I'll read what I had to say in response to him, and we'll take it from there. First, this clip.
I know what Hamas does, trust me, and I've been covering it. But that doesn't mean that the devastation and destruction can go on forever. Israel's now taken out Hezbollah. It's decimated Hamas. It had a war with Iran that we almost got dragged into, in more full flower. It's time to wrap it up in this American's view. I am entitled to that opinion, and I will not be shamed out of it by being called an anti-Semite. Now, as for my decision to platform Tucker, too bad, too fucking bad. I love him. We're friends. I don't think he's an anti-Semite at all, but I don't really care. I think Tucker's a very important, valuable voice in the national conversation. I'm thrilled.
Candace, I think Candace is
so
apart
I
from
don't
Tucker.
know her. I don't really know her that well. Although I will tell you, we recently had a very nice exchange before all this. And I was just reminded in my own head that Candace is a young mom of like 3 young kids. She's under a lot of pressure. She's got a big show. She's been under attack since she came onto the public airwaves. She's been under attack constantly. And it's my prerogative if I say to myself, that is not someone I wish to attack. I do not feel that way. I don't want to do it. And I felt this way. And now that people have made my attacking her the stakes of my relationship with whatever person is saying this, I'm going to have to say goodbye to that person. I won't do it. Now it's like a point of pride. It's literally the same thing as the BLM folks trying to make you raise your fist. The answer is no.
All right, so I just wanted to let that play out because between me and Yehuda, we responded to this quite extensively. I do want to just backtrack a little bit, though, because this clip was clipped, meaning there were certain parts which were cut out of it, and just to be as accurate as possible, I want to highlight that, like when she says
love him. We're friends. I don't think he's an anti-Semite at all, but I don't really care. I think.
Okay. So when she says she doesn't think he's an anti-Semite, but she really doesn't care, between those two lines, there was actually some additional context, but it didn't change the context of what she said. So it is as it sounds like. I'm just letting you know, if you watch the actual podcast, there are more words in there than what you see here in this clip, but the context is still the same. I'm just trying to do my due diligence here. Anyways, Yehuda had responded to her, reposting her saying, "I gave Megyn Kelly the benefit of the doubt until now. No longer. These are all ridiculous arguments. Saying Israel should stop the war because the scale of destruction is too large is naive and misleading. Wars are fought to achieve specific goals, not to minimize damage on a whim. If your position is that war should end, explain how Israel can end it while guaranteeing that Hamas will not remain in power and while ensuring all hostages are returned. Claiming enough destruction without offering a credible plan for preventing another October 7th is intellectually dishonest. It ignores why Israel is fighting, and it willfully ignores the reality that Israel takes extraordinary steps to avoid civilian casualties while Hamas embeds fighters among civilians and uses them as human shields. Nobody is arguing you are not allowed to have an opinion. This is America. Say what you want, but do not be surprised when people call you an anti-Semite for arguing that Israel should simply stop the war and leave a genocidal terrorist organization in place. That is exactly why commentators who push ceasefire-only positions without addressing the security consequences get labeled that way. If you support a ceasefire that leaves Hamas intact, you owe the public a rigorous explanation for why you think leaving a murderous organized terror machine on Israel's border is morally tolerable. On Tucker Carlson, at least you are honest about your personal feelings, but stop pretending the issue is that he's merely anti-Israel. The problem is that Tucker has repeatedly lied, manipulated facts, and amplified the most despicable, vile voices on his show. Over the past year, his output has been overwhelmingly obsessed with Israel, as his latest podcast was as well, I believe, and much of it is demonstrably false. He has given platforms to fanatics, grifters, and conspiracy theorists while refusing to retract or correct proven errors. You claim to believe Tucker is not an anti-Semite, but millions of Jews sure do. You cannot call someone like that a trusted friend and expect no pushback. By the way, I'm not Jewish, in case anyone out there was wondering. I don't exactly have a horse in this race. I'm just trying to cover it as reasonably as I would try to cover anything else. Yehuda continues, as for Candace Owens, the "I don't really know her" defense is absurd. How many people on your show do you talk to without knowing them? A quick read of her posts and commentary over the last year paints a clear picture. She has embraced lunatic conspiratorial narratives and flirted with the worst kind of tribal scapegoating. Maybe it's time you get to know her. Invoking motherhood or pressure as a shield against criticism is complete nonsense. Plenty of people are under pressure. They don't suddenly become Nazis. You end this clip with an admission of pride. Fine. But understand what you're admitting and stop pretending to be an objective journalist. For most Jews, support for Israel is not a hobby or a foreign policy preference. It is woven into the fabric of our safety and survival. When public figures normalize lies about Israel, when they imply Jews are disloyal and conspiratorial, when they let insinuation replace evidence, those positions have real violent consequences. So here's the bottom line. If you cannot or will not condemn lies, denounce people who amplify hatred, and explain how your preferred policy actually secures peace and prevents future massacres, then you are complicit in the damage. Pride is one thing, responsibility is another. Choose one. I would love to see a response from you, Megyn Kelly. He tagged her. Feel free to defend yourself. This is America, after all. You have the right to criticize my opinions, as I have the right to criticize yours. He added a bunch more information down here. He added some additional old posts from Megyn Kelly and also about Megyn Kelly. arguments between her and Candace Owens, other things of that nature. I don't really want to get into all of this, though. So I'll just stick with my thread, and I'll read what I responded to Yehuda with. I said, Megyn Kelly making ridiculous arguments doesn't necessarily prove that she has the wrong motives, though such arguments might certainly render her motives irrelevant. And this is going point by point, by the way. My apologies if it's tough to keep up with on account of the length of both mine and Yehuda's posts. In regards to Israel/Gaza, I myself have always pondered the question of when a justified response becomes an unjustified retaliation, so I think it's only reasonable for her to wonder as well, especially since she's on the outside looking in and supporting Israel isn't woven into her fabric. Unless we're going as far as saying that Israel's response would be justified until the point of literal genocide, we must accept that there's a line somewhere and consider where exactly it might be. And because of the complexities of such a war, it could be that there simply isn't a one-size-fits-all argument which everyone should be making. It seems like a bit of a stretch to me to automatically label someone anti-Semitic for arguing that Israel should simply stop the war, with Hamas terrorists still in Gaza. I mean, with that logic, one might as well argue that it was anti-Semitic for Israel not to destroy Gaza long before the October 7th attack, seeing as how Hamas terrorists were in Gaza at that time. A terrorist attack of such magnitude certainly changes things, but even when it's time to strike back, there's still a balance to strike, with human life on the line. At the same time, I agree that Megyn sounds like she's merely making excuses when she defends Tucker Carlson because she knows him, while refusing to condemn Candace Owens because she doesn't know her. That's the epitome of deflection, if you ask me, and if her end goal is critiquing only the left, as she suggested in a different post the other day, then she's just as much of a propagandist as any particular partisan MSM network. What bothered me the most in the clip was how Megyn mentioned that Candace has been under attack constantly, without mentioning that Candace has been on the attack constantly. Such selectivity is suspicious. It's also worth noting that Megyn refuses to attack Candace as though there's no way to even constructively criticize her. The notion that criticizing Candace's absurdity is somehow similar to posting a black square for BLM is just nonsense, though there certainly are some simple-minded Israel surrogates who have the energy of BLM activists. Let's just be real. I understand that pressure tends to make a determined or predetermined person want to put their foot down even more. But if you're a journalist, you should focus on journalisming, without playing favorites, giving preferential treatment, or tackling topics according to personal political grievances. For example, Candace is attacking all of TPUSA, all over her podcast after the assassination of its founder. And if Megyn truly believes that it's wrong to go on the attack, then Candace is just the person, aka attention-seeking public figure, whom she should be constructively criticizing on her own podcast. I imagine Megyn is understandably drawing a lot of inference from her own podcast with Charlie Kirk shortly before the assassination. But to not see the mockery Candace is making at this point is to be willfully blind. Not only has Megyn said she believes Candace is genuine, despite now claiming that she doesn't know her enough to say otherwise, it just doesn't make sense to be sympathetic to the point of silence when Candace herself is using her entire shtick to get clicks and clout off of stirring controversy and spreading conspiracies. I definitely contest Megyn's proclamation of pride and her justification of a stubborn stance. It seems like the logic of a rebellious child to say, "You telling me to do X just makes me more determined to do Y." Those are just a few thoughts of someone else who's on the outside looking in and who's trying to be as unbiased as possible. Yehuda did respond to me, saying only that he wanted to clarify that he never meant to call Megyn an anti-Semite. He was just explaining why people might label her as such. I thanked him for the clarification. He actually complimented me on my points. I appreciate that as well. So I added some more information below this thread, and I do want to go through it as well. I have a separate thread pulled up over here with a link to the letter from Charlie Kirk to Netanyahu, which was published in full after Candace Owens claimed that Netanyahu was lying by omission when he quoted from it without showing all of it. Turns out Candace Owens was sorely mistaken on that letter as well, but she's going to continue her ever-evolving spin on the entire situation. I'll continue on down this previous thread. My thoughts on the aforementioned Megyn Kelly / Charlie Kirk podcast, which I revisited just the other day. So, yes, they had a show together not too long before Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and they expressed some frustrations, Kirk and Kelly. They expressed frustrations with certain people in the pro-Israel realms who had been calling even Kirk an anti-Semite, despite his extensive history of being a sincere and devout supporter of Israel and Jews overall, of course. Of course, Candace Owens has gone the extra mile with all of this information and spun it all into a claim that Charlie Kirk was having a falling out with Israel, and because of it, they somehow had him assassinated. Of course, she's only suggesting this. She might say that she's not outright saying it. She's just suggesting it, right? But it's all just one nothing burger of conspiracy theories. So just the other day, I had shared a link to that podcast. Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk push back against Israel support. And I could actually click on this just so you can see the full title. Know where to go to find it if you want. Megyn Kelly's YouTube channel. As you can see, they were having a discussion pushing back against Israel supporters, demanding their 100% Israel support. So they both did express frustrations in this. No way did that prove that Charlie Kirk was about to have the ultimate fallout with the aforementioned Israel. But yes, this was published around a month ago, so it is relevant to the conversation. I'm not denying that. But my thoughts on it, to the people using this Megyn Kelly podcast as evidence that Charlie Kirk was somehow, for some reason, taken out by Israel. His message was pro-Israel and anti-idiot. It's really that simple. There are idiots, like Candace Owens, on both sides of the issue. And him having certain issues with both brands of idiots is merely a reasonable and understandable position. Aside from that, it proves nothing. I'm all for connecting dots to paint the picture, but too many people are drawing lines to dots which don't exist in order to reach their own predetermined conclusions. That's called conspiracy theory and propaganda. If your so-called investigation can be summarized with, "I don't know, but I know," a quote from Candace Owens there, then you don't know much of anything. Because you're not even engaging in honest, objective thought. If you have questions to ask, then go for it. But if all of your questions have statements baked into them, then the only one whose motive is in question is your own. By the way, there have been a slew of recent mass shootings, assassinations, and attempts for a plethora of reasons. It's stupid to be so shocked that someone who debated angry young people publicly and received death threats regularly would end up being murdered by a deranged lunatic, especially considering how so many people celebrated it. It's even more stupid to act like the only logical explanation is that the Jews did it. I mean, it's not even about logic here, because deranged lunatics don't act according to logic. Back in 2024, March of 2024, I had posted something, a simple analogy on X. I remembered it in the midst of all of this drama and thought I would add it to this thread. This has been my most basic sentiment in the form of an even more basic analogy. Since shortly after Israel began its response to the October 7th terrorist attack by Hamas, war is war, but the philosophical question still remains for me. And now I'll read the original post from 2024. A picture of the Israeli flag, picture of the Palestinian flag, of course. And I simply said, not to oversimplify the complexities of the foreign conflict between Israelis and Palestinians, I have an analogy, and you can tell me what you think about it. I'm sure you've all seen, as a good analogy, an older sibling place their palm on the forehead of a younger sibling, either to challenge them to land a slap, or simply to prevent them from hitting. Well, consider for a moment that Israel has played the role of the older sibling for many years now, and that they've had their proverbial palm on the forehead of Palestine, more specifically Gaza, even more specifically Hamas, who has run Gaza into the ground. The Iron Dome could even be perceived as the palm. So to further analogize, if Hamas's October 7th terrorist attack upon Israel is an example of the younger sibling swinging past the proverbial palm and striking a big blow to the older sibling, how much of a punishing pummeling is the older sibling then justified in returning? Forget arguments over genocidal terminology for a moment, and don't get lost in the heated history of it all. Philosophically speaking, when does a justified response become unjustified retaliation? So as you can tell, I'm definitely not someone who has believed that Israel should be able to do anything under the sun in retaliation. That just hasn't been my position. Now, I don't exactly know what my position is, because I don't know all of the facts of the matter, and because, as Charlie Kirk himself suggested and stated in his letter to Bibi, Israel has not exactly done a very good job when it comes to press, when it comes to their social media campaign to justify their own handling of the war. Charlie Kirk was letting Israel know, hey, people like me over here in America are often left to do your bidding. We're often left to act as your surrogates, when in fact you could do a better job of standing up for yourselves in terms of optics. So don't pretend like Israel has done the best job of defending its decisions within the context of this war. And I'm not just criticizing them. You can't exactly trust anything coming out of Gaza because, like I said, it has been run by Hamas for years and years and years. The Ministry of Health over there putting out numbers which may or may not be accurate. No one is flawless here. But if you ask me, I know who the terrorists are, and I'm never going to give them the benefit of the doubt. That doesn't mean Israel and its prime minister are out of reach of criticism and or concern. That's why Charlie Kirk himself was reaching out. So this letter was a month before he went on Megyn Kelly's podcast. So yeah, time for him to change his mind there. As far as I can tell, Candace Owens and other like minds are just acting like people with personal vendettas against TPUSA at this point, and more specifically, vendettas against all things Israel and even all things Jewish. No, I'm not in any way calling Megyn Kelly anti-Semitic. I just think that she has found herself in a difficult position, and if she's not careful, well, she could end up like Candace Owens, defending people like Kanye West and the Tates throughout all of their controversy. Alright, so what else do I have here? Reiterating what I said at the top of this thread, Candace Owens especially has reached new levels of lunacy, and if anyone on the right, should be calling it out, it's Megyn Kelly. So here's a 2-minute long clip of Candace Owens going off the rails just the other day. Here you have it.
About 48 hours before Charlie Kirk died, Charlie informed people at Turning Point, as well as Jewish donors and a rabbi, that he had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause outright. Okay, Charlie was done. He said it explicitly. that he refused to be bullied anymore by the Jewish donors? Can you guys answer? Did he express that? Did he also express that he wanted to bring me, Candace Owens, back because he was standing up for himself? And then did he, just 48 hours later, conveniently catch a bullet to the throat before our on-stage reunion could happen? It's a yes or a no. Yeah, I'm putting the fire here right at the feet of Turning Point because I am disgusted. I am genuinely disgusted. I am looking around and wondering whether Charlie's entire life was the Truman Show. None of you guys are behaving in the way that you should be behaving, okay? There is no way you are letting these lies fly. Unless, as I'm hearing, unless it is true that there was a big payday that was on the line. And if Charlie radically stated that he was done with Israel, if Charlie said he had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause because of, and I quote, Jewish donors, the behavior of Jewish donors, if he said that, yes or no, well then, I don't know, maybe some people didn't want to take that risk that he was going to, become Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson at Turning Point USA with all of those presences, so much presence across college campuses. Maybe they didn't want to take the chance. And I will say this, you know what? Somewhere Charlie is watching, okay? And I hope he knows that we are reunited, okay? We're on stage right now, and the Jewish donors are very angry about it.
She doesn't really seem to think much of the clip of him, which was also from not too long before he was murdered, in which he was obviously criticizing her and people like her who have gone after Israel in such conspiratorial ways. And you know what? I should have added that clip to this thread, but I didn't think about it.
Thank you for coming, Charlie. And I had a quick question about anti-Semitism online. Another question here they asked about Candace Owens, and I'm a big fan of you. I was a big fan of her, but she's obviously been going down this anti-Semitic bent. And through her, I'm kind of finding out about these other characters online, like Nick, for instance. I'm sure you've heard of him. And these people, they've been active for a long time, and it seems like they've just been ignored, which is working, but now they're kind of surging in popularity. And as someone who, I enjoy watching your debates, are they people you'd be willing to engage with and maybe shut them down in a way through a debate or something like that?
Well, I mean, I'll get to debate Candace. But no, look, I'll debate anybody that shows up at our campus events first and foremost, but I do want to take what you say and extrapolate that there is a corner of the internet of people that want to point and blame the Jews for all their problems. Everybody, this is demonic and it's from the pit of hell, and it should not be tolerated, period. But it goes to a structural problem of an entire generation that has economic resentment. They don't own anything, they're not getting married, they're not having children, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're staring at their screens all day long. And all of a sudden, your extrapolation of all that is, well, it's the Jews' fault. That is sloppy and shallow thinking. And not only that, they say, oh, it's the Jews' fault. Okay, let's kind of play this out. Well, tuberculosis, that used to kill about 1 billion people. It's a group of Jewish scientists that came up with the antibiotic that cured tuberculosis. How about CPR, the MRI machine? There's over 500 million lives that were saved over the last 50 years because of people that were Jewish scientists that were working on things. They'll never say thank you to the Jews, but they'll always say shame on the Jews. It's weird how that works. And finally, they always blame the Jews for stuff. Jewish people are an ethnicity. So therefore, definitionally, you have people that are secular, orthodox, religious, that are all over the spectrum. You're trying to blame an entire ethnicity for a singular problem. Hold on, let's take a step back here. Instead of that, what could you possibly do in your own personal life to improve your own state of being? If you are blaming 0.02% of the world's population for all of your problems, that is not going to be good for your soul. It's not good for your psychology. It's not good for your future in any way, shape, or form. And so I would just say this, that any young person that goes into this hyper online brain rot, you are serving yourself over to your own demise. You are serving yourself into a suicide mission that will not make you happier and not make you healthier. Instead, here's what your attitude should be. Your attitude should be like, I can't own stuff, I got it, can't own a home, I'm not getting married, I don't know who to date. I said, wow, The challenges are immense. I'm going to now overcome all those challenges and go on an adventure. I'm going to prove everyone wrong. I'm now not going to be a victim. I'm going to be a victor. I'm going to dig deep. This is still a great country. This is a free country. I'm going to use my agency. I'm going to use my ability. And I'm not just going to go point in the corner and be like, I'm overweight because of the Jews. Women don't want to date me because of the Jews. How about this? As Jordan Peterson would say, sit up straight with your shoulders back, follow the rules for life, make yourself interesting, learn something new every single day, and instead of pointing at a small group of people and engaging in this brain rot, become a better person.
But yes, they weren't exactly as buddy-buddy as she has pretended in all of this time, and she wants everyone to believe that she knew Charlie Kirk so much more than his own wife, so much more than everyone at Turning Point USA, so much more than Netanyahu, for sure. And you know, I get it. When he first quoted that letter while being interviewed about some of Candace Owens' claims, he should have known that people were going to then ask to see the entire letter. But maybe he baited her into it a little bit, because Candace Owens was like, I think Israel might have something to do with this. I think this about the relationship between Charlie Kirk and Israel, or between Charlie Kirk and Benjamin Netanyahu. And then Netanyahu was like, actually, I have this letter. It's practically a love letter. Has some criticism, but it's practically a love letter. Of course, she was going to then demand to see the rest of the letter and claim that he was lying by omission, as she put it. So then he could just turn around and release the letter. Or however it got released, you know. And then lo and behold, she would turn out to be inaccurate, because she was just blowing smoke in the first place. Well, that's what happened, but she's never going to acknowledge any of her own ignorance, despite her, once upon a time, being on the Piers Morgan show, talking about how she has no issue admitting when she's been wrong. I mean, she just never does that. She never admits when she's wrong. She's been wrong about so many things. If the example I gave you at the beginning of the show of her seemingly lying about the word vehicle isn't enough for you, well, then what about this lawsuit she's involved in with the Macrons from France? I mean, she claimed recently that she was not being sued for claiming that Brigitte Macron has a penis, to put it lightly. She in fact claimed that Brigitte Macron had never sued anyone for claiming she has a penis and is a man. But if you read the actual lawsuit, it's literally written into the lawsuit that Candace Owens is being sued for claiming that Brigitte Macron has a penis and is a man. So Candace Owens just outright lied about that as well. And it's not even a lie that makes a lot of sense. It's just her way of spinning each and everything in an attempt to keep everyone on their toes, I suppose. At least she's got to keep her fans and her stands on their toes, so they can't see how much of a poser she is. Candace Owens equals wasting a gift by reducing it to the grift of gab. Now, that's what I have to say about her. Someone else had shared the clip I just showed you and said, so to be clear, Candace Owens is honoring her best friend's legacy by going to war with his entire organization and legacy? Shout out to Natalie Beisner on that question. I responded, ironically, she sounds like the wife in The Truman Show. So Candace Owens claimed that it was beginning to seem like Charlie Kirk's entire life was just The Truman Show. And yeah, that's why I said, ironically, she sounds like the wife in The Truman Show. Big-eyed, bobblehead, babbling as she realizes that her own act has been compromised. She's taking the only way out is further in logic to new extremes, and with all of the attention, I'm sure she could use the clout and clickbait compensation for legal expenses, since she'll likely need this grift to cover the expenses of the last grift. I lost faith in her back when she was going on diatribes about how Taylor Swift was a historically horrible human while simultaneously buttering the biscuits of Kanye and the Tates. I thought maybe she was just losing more and more marbles, but now that her theories are leading her to outright lie about an increasing number of things, I think she was mostly just an aspiring con artist all along, whose Blexit was really just a cloud-chasing entrance into conservatism. Apparently she has since gotten bored with the fundamentals and has had to settle for going mental. She's now just a face of the latest Hear Me Roar movement, stuck in meltdown mode as anti-Israel seals and Candace sycophants clap with intrigue. I'm so harsh on her because she's wasting such a gift and reducing it to the grift of gab. Someone responded to me saying, this 100%, I'm so harsh on her because she's wasting such a gift and reducing it to the grift of gab. She's doing numbers. Getting a lot of views on her videos. Way more than me. And shoot, this is a very controversial thing to talk about. I know, I mean, I'm a nobody. And because I recently uploaded a video talking about Ian Carroll, and less specifically Candace Owens, one of just a couple comments was accusing me of being paid by Israel, which is just nonsense. I mean, I've never made a single penny off of any of my content creation, YouTube or elsewhere. Unfortunately, I hope to change that at some point, but no, I'm not going to be raking in foreign dollars. Not to mention, I don't think I'm exactly one-sided enough of a surrogate for any particular cause to where they would want to contribute to my content creation. I just see someone like Candace Owens who has such a massive reach, and it seems to me that she's doing far more harm than good at this point. I once upon a time followed her more closely and thought that what she had to say was interesting and oftentimes insightful. But now it's just one endless self-produced series of conspiracy theories after another. I don't know exactly when it will end. She would probably say whenever she gets to the bottom of it. But hey, when people get to the bottom of the barrel these days, they just cut a hole in the bottom of the barrel and pretend there's another barrel beneath it. I don't know if I have time or energy to go through much more of this, but I did have some things here in this other thread. Unfortunately for Candace Owens, she apparently knows no shame, and her conspiracy theories will merely evolve into whatever continues to increase her clicks or whatever it is that keeps her kicking. That goes along with what I was just saying, so I was reposting another compilation of clips courtesy of Nathan Livingstone, aka Milk Bar TV. Yes, he said Candace Owens utterly embarrassed after repeatedly claiming Netanyahu not only severely misrepresented but outright lied by severe omission about the letter Charlie Kirk wrote him. The full letter has now been published, and Candace was completely wrong, which is why she, I guess, turned her attention to being outraged at TPUSA. Because if you run into one dead end, then just take a shortcut through someone's yard, hop some fences, and say, come and get me. I'm over here. I'm not going to play that. Candace Owens isn't a know-it-all. She's, in fact, a know-it-all. So if you don't understand the reference, I will play part of this compilation proving why Candace Owens is the greatest investigative reporter of our time. Methodical, rigorous, level-headed, driven by facts, and absolutely unbiased as she deduces who actually killed Charlie Kirk.
What I do know is we're not getting the full story because I just spiritually know that more people are involved, okay? So I would discern that we are looking, just vibe again, two different people would be.
Okay. Hold on a second. So imagine if the authorities came out and said what she's saying. If they said, I just have a vibe, you know. I just spiritually know, you know. Do you think she herself would find any of that professional? No, obviously not, but she's supposedly running her own investigation here. And how exactly is any of this speculative gobbledygook professional?
My thing, two different people. I think the person in the maroon that's walking is different from the person that's walking up the stairs. It's a gut thing, okay? I don't know, but I know. Okay? I don't know, but I know.
Put that on a t-shirt. I don't know, but I know. Imagine if the authorities came out for their press conferences and said, we don't know, but we know. That she takes herself seriously and not them. Listen, I'm not saying I have all the answers to everything that happened, but is it Occam's razor or some other razor? You just got to apply here. You're missing the forest for the trees. You're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Maybe some other metaphor that fits more appropriately. We've gotten to the point where people can see video evidence, claim it's AI. People can have proof that it's not AI, then claim that it's a federal operation. Have proof that it's not a federal operation, and claim, well, I don't know, it just goes on and on and on. People with predetermined narratives look until they find something that they can point to as proof of what their predetermined narrative is. And all of the gobbledygook gulpers out there just eat it up.
We don't know, but we know something made its way around the entire town and into my tips line repeatedly. It is a very clear image of Tyler Robinson, allegedly taken, I'll say allegedly for safety here. We can now plot this change, this alleged Dairy Queen stop, onto our timeline. We were very accurate when we started getting really serious about looking at a timeline. I like a clean timeline. Well, there we go. 6:38 p.m. We get this confirmed photo, or I shouldn't say a confirmed photo, an alleged photo. He writes, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty die-hard MAGA. There's something here for everyone if you want to take the low-hanging fruit and think of this as left versus right, right? So if you're like, on the right, you're like, I need to blame the left, then it's like, whoa, the trans thing is here. But if you're on the left, you need to blame the right. Well, Dad was a die-hard MAGA. It's so fed. It's just so federally written. It's amazing.
It's so federally written. Listening to her is like listening to a Cardi B song. I feel like a lot of people who eat up what she's saying are the type of people who claim that emotion is irrational and then listen to her and don't come away with the conclusion that she's being emotionally irrational. It's amazing how quickly she transitions between maybe and definitely, maybe, definitely, if this, allegedly that. She doesn't really know anything. She just leads people on these wild goose chases, keeps them on their toes, and they think that they're getting somewhere when she's really going nowhere fast. Future journalism schools will be teaching entire courses on what Candace is doing here. She's really quite obnoxious to listen to, but I'll play a little bit more of this.
Chaos right here. Says to Lance, allegedly, quote, I worry about Prince. I had to leave it, referring to the rifle, in a bush where I changed outfits. Wait, changed outfits? Somebody commented, men don't say outfits. That's a woman thing. Okay.
Oh, so someone else said it, so therefore you're not the only one saying it. So therefore, since a crowd is saying it, it's even more credible. Oh, now a crowd of people are saying that it's unusual to use the word outfits, just like it's unusual to use the word vehicle, supposedly. She's stuck on semantics again. And I don't want to get stuck on this compilation of clips, but it goes on and on and on. You can find all of this stuff. I don't know that I would recommend watching her entire podcasts because you may never hear the end of it, but just know that although she does not know, she knows. Candace Owens, investigative reporter. That's a laugh and a half right there. All right, so this was what Candace Owens was saying about Charlie Kirk's relationship with Israel 2 years ago. But what's legitimately comical is the never-ending rabbit hole of conspiracy theories which she herself has since gone down. So yes, almost exactly 2 years ago, she was saying this in response to someone had said, if Charlie Kirk remains the head of TPUSA, the right has an anti-Semite problem that will follow them into the coming elections. Okay, she said, this is legitimately comical. LMAO, if you want to measure just how disingenuous neocons are being in their effort to demand war, look no further than Charlie Kirk being labeled an anti-Semite. Charlie has endured years of being confronted on college campuses from protesters accusing him of being a Zionist shill. He is known to be radically pro-Israel and minted countless pro-Israel initiatives across college campuses. There are hours upon hours of footage available on the internet of Charlie Kirk defending Israel, even from within its borders. If Charlie Kirk is an anti-Semite, then the categorization carries no real meaning, and accusations of it will unfortunately elicit no response in the future. So basically, 2 years ago, someone was suggesting that Charlie Kirk was not pro-Israel enough, and therefore was going to cause an anti-Semite problem on the right, and even within TPUSA. Candace Owens thought that was a ridiculous notion. She thought that there was no way that Charlie Kirk could ever be considered anything other than pro-Israel. But then, conveniently for her, as he's murdered, she determines that he, in fact, was becoming increasingly anti-Israel, or maybe just less pro-Israel. So because he was becoming less pro-Israel, not anti-Israel, but just less pro-Israel, they had him assassinated, but also they didn't have him assassinated because you never heard that from her. It's just that it's all so very suspicious, and all suspicion apparently points back to Israel and the Jews. The argument is basically that it's a burger, and also it's a nothing burger at the same time, because they didn't say that they knew anything, they just said that they knew something. This has to be the low point. Candace Owens seemingly striving to make a meme out of a murder. So on the 16th, this is what Candace Owens said. "Sorry guys, you murdered my friend." Whoever you guys are. "You unlocked the Inigo Montoya in me. We're not stopping until we get to the bottom of this thing." Okay, so she starts, "You guys." Who are you guys? Israel? The government? TPUSA? All the above? Frank McCormick actually responded with a screenshot of the old post, which I just read, where she was calling it legitimately comical to suggest that Charlie Kirk wasn't pro-Israel enough. Of course, now she apparently believes that he was not pro-Israel enough to the point where Israel had him assassinated. But, oh wait, also didn't, because she never said that, though she did. I'm pretty sure I've only ever used the term woke right on X once before in an insult of James Lindsay. If you know, you know. But I must say, lie by omission sounds awfully woke to me, at least when Candace Owens says it. She's like, if you don't tell me that which I don't yet know, then because I already know it, I know that you're lying about it. That's how you translate the phrase lie by omission, or lie by severe omission. So yeah, I put some screenshots of Candace Owens here. "It is 100% true that Charlie opposed war with Iran and was fighting with his donors over Israel, as Tucker Carlson just shared on Megyn Kelly's show." Oh, they're all connected, aren't they? "This is why I am discomforted by the intentional lie by omission that Bibi told on Fox News about the letter Charlie wrote him. Though it turned out there was no lie. And you can't call it a lie by omission since the entire letter was published, meaning there's no omission." Here she said, "Bibi Netanyahu lied about the contents of the letter Charlie wrote to him in May. It was a lie by severe omission. And it isn't sitting right with me. Well, congrats." Here she said, "He held the letter in his hand and propagandized it." Which is all you do, Candace. "He should publish the entire thing." Oh, wait, he did. Or whoever did. And that's the end of that thread. And I don't really have a great way to wrap this up. So I'm just going to say, keep in touch, keep in tune. New content is coming soon. I know I gave you a lot to chew on there. Myself included. It was actually very tough for me to get through this. I am extremely tired, have not slept in almost 2 days. And I'm going to have to do a lot of trimming. That's going to be fun. Peace.